Alright, quick notice here I wanted to add at the beginning of the video. Basically, this video will contain opinions and stuff that basically, just be respectful, This is my personal opinions on the announcement. So please, if you don't like what you see here, you don't gotta be mad or you don't gotta get super angry about it. Just, agree to disagree and move on. That's it. Other than that, let's get started. Hey everyone, Nux free here, and it is finally time, at long last, to review the Sonic 25th anniversary party because it did not disappoint in the fact that I thought that maybe there was going to be no information there or maybe the information wasn't going to be enough. Oh, no. We definitely got the information that we were seeking for so long. And if I have to give Sega props on one thing, it's the fact that they at least finally had a big reveal, and they didn't lie when they said that this party was going to have everything that we were looking for, from the game reveals, from information about the series' future. So now it is time to take a look at how me watching this stream and go over my review of it, the reveals, the different things that happened there, and just talk about that and give my big thoughts on what I thought on the future of Sonic. So let's get started. And let's get started with me saying the fact that Sega, for the love of God, needs to find, somebody that can, like some sort of different server or streaming service or something, because the streaming of this event was absolute garbage, at least in terms of that. Like, that's just one thing I want to get out of the way. Like, the streaming of this event was just so bad. Like, for starters, the first issue was that the party and the stream was actually at least 20 minutes late. So I was there, they had like Sonic music playing, but the stream would keep crashing, like on Twitch, especially on Twitch. Like the stream was horrible on Twitch. On YouTube, it was okay, but overall, there was still a lot of issues with the stream. There was a lot of audio issues. There were a lot of glitches going on with the stream. Like the stream was pretty bad overall in terms of the streaming as a whole. Like not the party itself, but just the stream was the audio issues. Like I remember literally audio would cut at the most horrible times. Like there was one part where Aaron Weber was going to talk about a reveal, and then the audio would literally cut as he's talking, and I'm just sitting there like, really? But yeah, I just need to say that because Sega, please fix your audio for the next Sonic event or whatever you're going to do. And yeah, just get that out of the way and no problems there. Okay, so the first things first, the party opens up, with a performance by, I think the group name is Hyper Potion, which I don't know why their band name or whatever it is, why their group name is named after a Pokemon item. But, other than that, they performed, they opened up the show, and I noticed that a lot of fans weren't really enthusiastic when they started performing. Like, a lot of fans, were just coming in, I guess, and seeing that. I think Sonic was on stage, like, dancing and dabbing or something like that. And, it's just like, okay, that's there. And they were also doing weird remixes of the Chow Garden themes, which I guess got everyone's, hopes up in terms of, seeing the Chow. Anyone who loves Chow, there you go, remix of Chow music, which I thought was also kind of weird, that I don't think Chow, as much as I like the Chow, I don't think remixes of Chow Garden music isn't really the most party favorable music, but that's not really my opinion. So, minus my taste in music, I think it's time that we start talking about the first major reveal. So after a lot of teasing and delaying and weird kind of stalling, we finally got our first major reveal of Sonic and basically our first 25th anniversary game. It turns out that we actually got two 25th anniversary games in this event. And I am pretty interested in that fact, because I had a feeling that there would only be one, but it turns out there was two. And the first one revealed is Sonic Mania. Now, Sonic Mania, in my opinion, at first, it seemed kind of weird to me. So I was there sitting there watching the trailer, and I was like, oh boy, is this the trailer for the big game? And it was kind of weird how they were like, oh, we're going back in the past, I think was the theme of the trailer. And I was just looking at it, and I'm like, okay, well, what is this? They're having like some sort of montage of past Sonic games and going back to the past, and why is this? Then the gameplay footage starts, and honestly, my initial first thought was disappointment. At least at first, my initial thought for Sonic Mania was disappointment, and let me explain why. The reason why at first I kind of felt a little disappointed looking at Sonic Mania is because I thought that was the 25th anniversary game by itself. Like, I thought that was the core 25th anniversary game. Like, it looked cool. Like for starters, let me talk about, okay, I think it'll be better if I divide it like this. Let me divide it into the positives and the negatives. So, on the negative side, actually, you know what? Let me start with the positives. Okay. So with the positives of Sonic Mania, let me just say that I think that the game looks pretty decent, actually, because first things first, it is basically the real Sonic 4. Like, not Sonic 4, like, as in the two Sonic 4 games that Sega made that were so half, done and half-baked, and were just such weak entries into the franchise that I just, grew to dislike and grew distaste towards. People would always say that those Sonic 4s didn't really feel like Sonic 4s. Sonic Advance felt more like a Sonic 4. Sonic Colors felt more like a Sonic 4. But now, here we are with this game, which basically is Sonic 4. Because, look at it. Like, the aesthetic is there. The physics are there. The aesthetic is there. The art style is there. Like, everything you could ever want from a continuation of Sonic 3 and Knuckles is right there here in Sonic Mania. It really is a very good looking game, and that's the reason why I, feel bad for kind of downing it, really, because even though it is like, something that I didn't really expect, and I thought it was the only anniversary game, I still think it looks kind of solid because, for starters, it's like one big apology for what happened with the two Sonic 4 episodes that they put out. And now we have this Sonic 4 that really is kind of really good looking in terms of being a continuation of the Genesis trilogy. And so it's like a weird blesh of, the Genesis trilogy and Sonic CD. And I find that, that's okay. It's okay to have a game like that. Now, what impresses me a little more is the fact that, it really is a Sonic 4, because remember with Sonic 4 how they had these extremely lame excuses to how they would have no characters. Like, the only character in episode 1 was Sonic. Like, we're continuing off of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and now we're just playing as Sonic, and the only thing he has is a flimsy home attack? Like, really? Like, I always thought that was extremely lame, and it made no sense why, a game that's continuing after the Genesis trilogy basically doesn't have things that were not only in the Genesis trilogy and in CD, but, it's just, all it has is just the homing attack. And even when it comes to level design in the Sonic 4 games, like, even though episode 2 had a little more level design, most of it from both games, both episodes of Sonic 4, were just extremely weak. Now, when it comes to Sonic Mania, it looks slightly much more original. Not slightly, I don't know why I said slightly, but basically, I think Sonic Mania looks good in that it's going to be a true Sonic 4. It's going to be a true new 2D Sonic. And yeah, and it even has the original free playable Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, which is, again, something that Sonic 4 failed to do. No new characters. It was just Sonic only and gimmicks with him, Now we have Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. They're there, like they should have been in Sonic 4, because it was continuing right after Free and Knuckles. There was no excuse why Tails and Knuckles, at the very least, had to be cut from a sequel to those games. So, Sonic Mania, that's pretty much my positives, but here's the problem with that. Now we go into my negatives with Sonic Mania. My negatives with Sonic Mania. that's about the only major positives I have with it. Like, I know it's going to be a good game because the developers are good, the aesthetics and graphics and all that are good, and all that great stuff. It's going to be a good game. But the problem I have with Sonic Mania, I feel like, is it's not that revolutionary or that exciting to me. Like, yeah, there's some new stuff in there that's new and cool and stuff, but it's not going to be something that we really haven't seen before that crazily. And I mean that in the sense that it's being a new 2D Sonic, it's not going to be revolutionary or crazy because we've had quite a lot of continuations and attempts at continuations of the Genesis trilogy, of the Sonic CD, of all sorts of 2D Sonic. Like, we've had so many 2D fan games. Like, have you seen how many Sonic fan games there are of the Genesis games alone? Like, we've had so many. Like, for example, I've mentioned on this channel that Sonic before and Sonic after the sequel were like true successors to the Genesis trilogy and to Sonic CD, because those games are really well polished 2D games that have great soundtracks that are basically full games, and they were great 2D games. But when it comes to Sonic Mania and coming along with all this stuff, I'm not that much blown away by it because, well, we've already seen attempts to be nostalgic at the 2D core of Sonic. So it's not something that's really that exciting. It's something I look at it and I say, oh, well, that's cool. But it's not something that's that revolutionary as some people make it out to be. I mean, some people even say, this is like a big return to Sonic's roots. Like, I'm pretty sure we've had many attempts to return to Sonic's roots before. Like, even with, the crappy original Sonic 4s that Sega made, those in themselves were attempts to return to Sonic's roots. So it's not like they haven't tried to return to Sonic's roots before. And that's what I feel kind of annoys me when it comes to Sonic. Like, they constantly have to bring up the fact that they return to Sonic's roots, even though they've made so many attempts to do so, that it's not really new anymore. At least that, I hope that kind of comes off well, but that's basically what I'm saying with Sonic Mania. But despite that fact, I think Sonic Mania looks good. I think it'll be a decent game. It's just, I don't really, I'm not losing my mind for it. It's not like a must-have. It's not like something crazy that any other developer could make. Like, another weird thing about it is Sega themselves, I don't think, have that much of a hand in it. Other than the fact that they licensed it, the game is pretty much being made by Kristen Whitehead, and he has pretty much full control of the game. He's a specialist when it comes to the original Sonic games and stuff like that, so he's really good at making games like that. And so when it comes to that, that's pretty much it, Sega really isn't doing anything with this game themselves, and the game is pretty much on the tier level of, I hate to say it, but any other Sonic fan game that I've seen over the last few years. Yeah, there's a bunch of unique stuff that I feel like is in there that's going to make it stand out, but it's not as crazy as some people think it is my opinion. So hopefully I didn't come off as too overly negative, but that was my thoughts on Sonic Mania. Alright, so that's pretty much all I have to say about Sonic Mania. I think the only other thing I have to say is, hopefully it is kind of more so an original game. Like, it looks so far from some stages, although I think there's a Green Hill Zone is literally in the game. So I'm not sure if there's some remade stages going on in there. Hopefully it's mostly original zones. But other than that, I think I don't really have any beef with Sonic Mania. There's nothing crazy in there that's upsetting me. And what really didn't upset me about Sonic Mania was finding out that it's not even the core 25th anniversary game. It's not the game that Sonic Team spent all this time on. All it is a spin-off game, not a spin-off, it's official, but it's a game on the side made by another team that's just there, to complement the anniversary. And I think that's okay. I think whenever there's games to complement the anniversary, that's good. I mentioned in my pre-reveal thoughts video that I thought Sega was having no games on the side that was looking that appealing. And now we have this game here, Sonic Mania, that actually does kind of look appealing. It looks definitely really good for 2D fans, and I think that's okay. But despite this, do remember that thing I bring up about Sonic and his roots, because it's going to come up later, trust me. So after the reveal of Sonic Mania, we go on to, I think we immediately went on to the Crush 40 performance, which Crush 40 I think did a good job, but I feel so bad for them, because the reason why I have this picture on screen is I just couldn't help but have this picture on screen, because I feel bad for the singer Johnny, I think his name is, because they had to perform for like literally an hour and 30 something minutes, I think. And their vocals, their voice cords, and their June's fingers playing the guitar, they must be aching from performing that long. I think they performed like almost every song they ever did in Sonic right there and then. They like performed so many songs. Open Your Heart, Live and Learn, Night of the Wind. They even did a song from their album, Two Nights to Remember, I think it's called. So yeah, Crush 40 did a good job, and poor Johnny there. But after Crush 40, their performance was really good, and I do think they really still have it. And hopefully I was hoping they do some music for the new game and all that stuff. But yeah, minus Crush 40, let's move on. So after that, the presentation pretty much hits a kind of a slowdown point. We go on to, for example, the Sonic Dash quote-unquote presentation, which I have no idea why they were talking about Sonic Dash, but apparently the big reveal for that was Classic Sonic and Green Hill Zone are in that now, even though the zone that is in Sonic Dash already looks a crap ton like Green Hill, but, whatever. Green Hill Zone, Classic Sonic, yay. Moving on. So after that, they go on to a Q&A, I think was the direct next thing, and the most interesting part by far about this Q&A, nothing else really, hits my mind about it, was, of course, they had to bring up Sonic Adventure 3. Yeah, Sonic Adventure 3. But when they did bring up Sonic Adventure 3, of course, it was the usual disconfirmation that it was in development. We hope to make it someday, blah, 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 glad. There goes Sonic Adventure 3. And I really don't have a comment to really say about that, other than, it is kind of, weird that the adventure games still kind of get put on the shelf in terms of that. But there's just really nothing else I can say or do about it. So moving on. So I think after that, Hello Kitty came on stage for some reason. I don't know why Hello Kitty is on stage. Lego Sonic, Sonic Boom Fire and Ice. Yeah, after that, the presentation really slowed down. Alrighty then, so after a lot of time with this stream, I feel like one of the major downsides with this stream was it had way too much weird organization and time put into it. But then again, it was mostly a party, so I guess it was focused more so on the people there than the people watching, so I guess I had no problem with that. The only problem I had is the stream quality was such garbage. Like, let me just bring that up again. That was horrifying. Like, that was even worse than the Nintendo streams, and that's saying something. Because Nintendo has some bad streaming moments too, but good God, that was bad. But minus the actual stream itself, now we get on to the final moments leading up to the big game. Like, the biggest fear that I had at the time of watching this was I was hoping that there was going to be a big reveal at the end, because I really didn't want Sonic Mania to be the only game and to be the big 25th anniversary game, because as much as I feel positive and mostly not bad about Sonic Mania, I did not want that to be the only game. There had to be some type of game, specifically a 3D game. That is what I wanted to see. I wanted to see that big 3D Sonic game that's really just going to change people's opinions of Sonic, that's really just going to me, finally move him forward from this roots crap that I had been, just kind of looking down on for the longest time. So now we move on to the big reveal. In the final moments, Azuka comes on stage. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm pretty sure I just butchered that right now. But he comes on stage and he says, I need your voices. And he wants to record everyone's voices in the audience so he can put it in Sonic Mania. And at first I was like, oh my God, no, please not let there be no reveal. There has to be a reveal. And lo and behold, they were trolling the entire time, and there was a reveal. So the trailer comes on, and now we go on to the reveal. So I'm basically going to give you all my raw reaction that was during this reveal. And I didn't record a live reaction, unfortunately, so I gotta basically just carry y'all through it. So I was sitting there, the trailer is there. My heart is like beating out of my chest. And the first thing I see is from the developers of Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations. And I'm like, why specifically Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations? Like, I just feel like that was weird. They had to mention those two games. They didn't even mention Lost World, interestingly. But, that's something I didn't really hold on to, even though I probably should have. So we go to this shot of the world basically destroyed. Like, the world is destroyed for apparently some reason. It's supposed to give off this kind of dark, edgy kind of feeling, apparently. But in my opinion, I knew that this was coming. I knew that whatever this trailer was, it was probably going to open with some type of quote-unquote edge, so that it could give people this edgy feeling that the edge is coming back to Sonic. Even though deep down, it's probably not. Like, I know there's still going to be comedy and probably some cracked jokes here and there. It's not going to be as serious as past Sonic games have. That's something that's probably never going to be really coming back. So I like to categorize that type of edge as the false edge, which basically isn't really that edgy. It's just kind of there just to give you this feeling that it's a little more serious than usual, which even though I knew it wasn't going to be 100% edgy, I knew that at least they were trying and making baby steps to moving Sonic past that horrid comedy style that was in Colors. So I could easily look past that. So we have the establishing shot of Sonic on top of a building, and he starts to make his move towards the destroyed world and to the giant Eggman robots that have apparently destroyed the world, and he's going to try and combat them. So Sonic is moving forth, and he's charging forth, and he's like, the world needs a hero, and it's Sonic. And it's like, oh, sweet. This next part, though, how do I put this? I'm just gonna be honest. The next part that happens, it just, oh my god. Okay, so after, we have that establishing shot, we have the world destroyed, we have modern Sonic, the core in Sonic that we know, not Boom Sonic, not classic Sonic, just the Sonic that I wanted to see. We have him charging towards this destroyed world and going on an adventure again. And I'm happy because I wanted to see something like that. But then the trailer gives us this thing called, but the world even, let me try this again. But even heroes need help. And at first I'm like, oh, well, who could that be? Could it be one of Sonic's friends? Tails, Knuckles, Silver? Like, who could that be? Rock busts open and boom. Classic Sonic. Come on, man. Like, let me give you my reason why when I saw Classic Sonic, all of my excitement drained from my body. Let me tell you why. Because as soon as I saw Classic Sonic, as much as I don't have really much of a grudge against the character, as soon as I saw him, all I could think instantly was Sonic Generations 2. Like, you're not telling me. Like, please do not even try to tell me that as soon as you saw Classic Sonic, the first thing you didn't think was Sonic Generations 2. Like, come on, man. It's so obvious. Why is he here? Like, I'm sorry, but I really have to rant about this because Classic Sonic shouldn't be here. For starters, let me give you my reasons why he shouldn't be here, why I'm annoyed he's here, and basically explain why this kind of killed some, if not most, of my hype for this game. For starters, why he shouldn't be here. We just got our 2D Sonic reveal, 2D and Sonic, you know what that was? Sonic Mania. We have our Sonic 4 there. We have, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles in this new 2D environment. We have these new zones, we have the classic style Sonic all right here. We even have him appearing in other stuff like Sonic Dash and like Lego Sonic, Green Hill Zone, all that good stuff. It's all in the other games. All the nostalgia that the 2D fans want are in other games. Why in God's name do we need him here? Like, the fact that Classic Sonic is here only tells me one thing. we're basically going back to that Generations gameplay style where half of the game is 2D with classic Sonic and the other half will have modern Sonic, but there is an extremely high chance that just like Sonic Generations, even modern Sonic will not be spared from 2D. He will have 2D sections and he will have no 3D, at least barely any 3D at all. Another thing this possibly tells me that Boost is coming back, which is also a bleh moment because of all the gameplay styles to return, while Boost probably would have been one of the more lesser offensive ones because I definitely didn't want to see, Boom Sonic. Like at the very least, it's at least not Sonic Boom. Like that's the most positive thing I can say about that. But when I saw Classic Sonic, it just dashed a lot of the big hopes I had for this game because I was expecting a core 3D game, solely focused on a new 3D attempt just to explore that with Sonic. That's what I wanted. I didn't want Classic Sonic to once again invade, the modern Sonic games. Like this is the reason why I have a problem with roots and nostalgia in Sonic. This is a big reason why I have a problem with that in Sonic because it invades everything. Like you cannot have anything new in any sort of form or fashion. Like I know in a lot of games in some other franchises, I complain that, there's not enough nostalgia. There's not enough similarities to older games, but that's because I want that as the core thing. There are other, replacements to that. Like, I'm trying to think of an example. Like, when it comes to 3D Mario, it's separate from 2D Mario. There's not random 2D sections in 3D Mario invading it, and that's why I wouldn't have a problem with that. But when it comes to Sonic, we cannot literally keep the 2D from invading everything now. So the fact that Classic Sonic is here most likely means that this game is going to have, once again, a crap ton of 2D shoved into it just to appease to 2D fans. And I don't understand why we need to do that when we literally have a game made for 2D fans right there. It just makes no sense to me. And it kind of really annoys me that it had to come to this. I had a strong feeling that this was most likely going to be the case because I know that a lot of Sonic fans have problems with Sonic in 3D. We have the adventure games, we have stuff like Heroes and Shadow, but a lot of people don't feel good with 3D and Sonic. And because of that, people feel like Sonic needs to hold on to those roots and needs to basically stick with 2D in some form so that he apparently doesn't lose form. But in my opinion, all this does is make me see Generations 2. Now we know it's not Generations 2 because Azuka has come out and said that it's basically not going to be Generations 2. And I don't doubt that in the form that maybe it won't have a bunch of, old stages returning. Like we won't be running through Green Hill or City Escape or all those old stages. It won't be a big nostalgia fest. But my big fear is while it won't be a big nostalgia thing in that sense, what I fear is it's going to be a big nostalgia fest in other senses, like gameplay, for example, which I know for a fact is most likely the case. It is basically going to be Sonic Generations, but with new stages and stuff. That's basically what it's going to be. And that's not the type of gameplay I wanted to see. Like, I wouldn't even have minded if Boost came back, but I would have liked it if maybe Boost came back by itself. Maybe it had some improvements so that it wasn't going to switch into those random 2D sections that I felt didn't fit in the first place. But unfortunately, it had to come to this. Classic Sonic had to come along and insert himself into the game. So now we're basically stuck with what I think is 100% most likely Generations 2. Now, maybe I could be wrong. Maybe Classic Sonic could be there for another reason. Maybe he's just there for some other weird reason, but you know good and well that he is there just to put the 2D sections there. Like, you know good and well that's the reason why he is in this game. And even story-wise, it just seems so odd to me because he tells me this isn't going to be a sequel to Sonic Generations. It's not going to have a lot of the stuff Sonic Generations have, but if Classic Sonic is here, we're once again going to have another time-traveling story. which means they're going to be running through time, meaning they're most likely going to be going through more of that, past reference crap. So, Generations 2. That's what it is, right? Oh my god. This was, I felt like maybe most of this party could have been passable. Like, Sonic Mania, I forgave 100% because it is its own thing. It is something made to cater to 2D fans. And it wasn't the only thing. So I let Sonic Mania go and be its own thing. I can't be angry at that. It's not going to be a bad game because it's not Sega developing it. It's not going to be another Sonic 4 Episode 1 or 2. It's going to be a real Sonic 4. It's going to be a really good game. But when it comes to this game that Sonic Team is making, what we basically are stuck with is what I feared was the most likely case, which was Generations 2. The 3D series couldn't escape the 2D hand-holding, and that's the only thing that bumps me out. Now, does it ruin the entirety of what I think of Sonic? Not really. It doesn't really ruin Sonic in the sense that it's gonna kill the franchise, because I know good and well that it definitely most likely is not. And this is more so my personal gripes. I know for sure that this game, which doesn't even have a name, I think it's called Project 2017. I know for a fact that this game is going to do well because one thing that they confirmed for it is it's multi-platform, which I guess for some people is definitely a thank God because, it won't be held back to a system like Lost World was with the Wii U. Even though what I find interesting that this game is not coming to Wii U, it's actually coming to the NX and it's coming to Xbox One and PS4. But I find it funny that Sega confirmed it for NX because I had a hunch that Sega had a development kit and was basically developing a game for the NX and that this Sonic game was an NX game. And it turns out that's the case. That's exactly the case. So now that I got my big review for this party done and over with, let's get to the final verdict. What do I think of these announcements? What do I think of the future of Sonic? And what is my overall thoughts on the 25th anniversary now that we've basically got the full plans exposed in front of us? So when it comes to Sonic Mania, I don't have any problems with it. It looks like it's going to be a pretty polished game. I know that for sure because it's not being done by Sega, which is kind of sad that Sega themselves can't really build a 2D Sonic game. Like, you would think that the team that created Sonic could easily do a 2D Sonic game, but I guess they can't. It's going to be okay because it's made by Christian Whitehead. He has experience with real Sonic engines like the Genesis trilogy, like Sonic CD. It's going to be the real Sonic 4 that 2D fans asked for. It's going to be a good game. I have no problem with Sonic Mania. But when it comes to Project 2017, the reason why I kind of have a problem with it is even though people say it definitely did go and cater to the 3D fans, in my opinion, it more so caters to anyone who mostly had a big enjoyment with Sonic Generations. And heck, it's even stated right in the beginning from the developers of Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations. That already tells me that most likely this game is going to be in that category of the boost games. And that's why I heavily believe that. Unless the gameplay, of course, is showed and it proves me wrong, which if it is, maybe I will make another video. But I'm 100% sure that what I think is pretty much the case. And that's the reason why I feel disappointed. The one thing that I wanted to see was 3D move on from holding on to roots. For 3D to move on from that nostalgia. From 3D to move on to expanding. But the fact that Classic Sonic had to spin his way into the game alone tells me that a lot of that stuff that I wanted to move on isn't moving on. And for that reason, I see Sonic Project 2017, while it's going to be a good game because, frankly, Generations was the last Sonic game I enjoyed. I hated Sonic Lost World. I really hated Sonic Boom. And at the very least, it has nothing to do with Sonic Boom. So I guess Sega covered themselves well in that regard. But other than that, to me, this looks about like C tier hype at best when it comes to Project 2017. When it comes to Sonic Mania, I give that an A minus pretty much. But when it comes to Sonic 2017, I would give that C minus, maybe even a D, depending on, depending on if I'm really going with my honest opinion. Alright, well, you know my thoughts on the 25th anniversary game now. The one thing I want to give Sega props for is at the very least they finally, spread everything upon the fans. They finally gave us everything, We finally know about the future of Sonic, guys. They told us everything. And so now I don't have to make a bunch of videos, crying about it, It's over. So now we know about the games. Now we wait for the games and see if they're good. And that's about it. There's really nothing else to it, I might make some more Sonic related videos in the future. I'm not promising that I'm pretty much done. But yeah, that was my big thoughts on Sonic the 25th anniversary. So I am done with Sonic for now. He's done. I'm just going to put him in the back burner and I'm just going to start working on other things. Alright, so now that that's done and over with, what do you guys think about my thoughts of the Sonic 25th anniversary game? And minus what I think, I want to hear what you think. What do you honestly think about Sonic Mania and Project 2017? You can tell me about both, honestly. Try not to really do it in like this paragraph format. Just summarize your opinions and let me know what you think. If you enjoyed the video and if you had some of the same thoughts as me, please leave a like because that really helps out. Not in the fact that it's going to make me money because I don't really monetize my videos, but it helps in that showing that people support my videos. People support my opinions. And I really love seeing that when it comes to the communities. And there's one more thing I want to add at the end of this video. For those of you who are subscribed to my channel, I want you guys to stay tuned because I'm going to be having some major announcements for the next free channel in the future. The reboot that I talked about in a previous video is definitely still on its way, but it is now moving forward in production now that Sonic and his shenanigans are done and over with. For now, I don't have to worry about that for a while, but now we can move on and talk about what I have planned for the future of this channel. Alright, well, that's pretty much all I have to say, so I hope you guys enjoy the video. Keep watching, leave that like, and yeah, this has been Nux 333, and I am out. Peace out, guys. My throat hurts. I'm gonna lay on the floor like Johnny now. Oh.